Hey everybody, before you watch this, I just wanted to let you know that The Idle Mind, my next short film, will be released at Atrium Cinemas on Tuesday, April 5th. Here's all the information. It's free. You don't have to purchase a ticket or anything. You just walk in and watch a free movie. I'll be there. All the cast and crew will be there. It's about an hour and a half event. The movie's 50 minutes, and then there's a brief Q&A. And yeah, I hope to see you all there. And now back to your regular scheduled program. Welcome to Movie Talk. Today we're going to talk about Modern Times, often considered one of the greatest films ever made. Before we talk about the film, let's talk about Charlie Chaplin, one of the most well-known and celebrated silent film stars, comedians, and film stars in general. His humor is unprecedented, his wit is amazing, and his movies are timeless. Chaplin was a genius. He knew how to make a movie, and how to make a movie good. And then in the 40s, some shit happened with Hitler and communism. But nevertheless, his perfectionist, independent attitude made his films way ahead of their time. He created the character of the tramp, which is how most people know Chaplin. If you think of Charlie Chaplin, you usually think about the tramp. He's a childlike, uneducated character with a good heart and good intentions. Sometimes he would break the rules, but you never disliked him. That's what I think lacks with a lot of characters in modern comedies. It seems to be the easy way out of, just make him an idiot. The tramp actually had a character, and it was so easy to relate to him. Not just because he didn't say anything, but because of his good nature. The tramp was actually a character with emotions, so when something happened to him, it was all the more funny because of how relatable he was. With that, let's get to Modern Times, the last film to star the tramp. To the modern moviegoer, this film looks like it would be a really hard watch. Not only is it in black and white, it's a silent film. Sort of. This film came out in 1936. By this time, talking pictures wasn't considered a novelty anymore. The people wanted sound. If there wasn't talking in it, people weren't going to go see it. However, Chaplin refused to transition into sound. He knew his craft in silent films was unmatched, and he believed sound was a gimmick. So in Modern Times, he put an interesting spin on it. Whenever there is spoken dialogue, it's coming out of a machine, like a robot or a screen. It's a symbol of dehumanization, which is more or less what the film is about. The plot is about a somewhat futuristic, industrialized world. It's actually a subtle cautionary tale about technology taking over humanity. Well, maybe not so subtle. But it was meant to show what life was like after the Great Depression, how impossible it was to find a job, provide for your family, and live life. Chaplin believed this was the effect of industrialization. Anyway, in the film we get some of the usual slapstick humor of Chaplin, but in my opinion, this is some of his finest comedic work, with perfect timing, great setups, and hilarious payoffs. A lot of the clips from the movie are on YouTube, with over 1 million views. For a silent film to break 1 million views on YouTube, it has to be really good and really funny. And it is. It shows just how timeless it is. Also in the film is Paulette Goddard, or Godard? I don't know. Playing a love interest sort of character who's wanted by the police. Interesting note, Chaplin was actually in love with this woman at the time, and it's very easy to tell. He directed the movie, and her scenes are shot in a way that no other character is framed. She always looks beautiful and glowing, and Chaplin was sure of that. The entire film is the two of them trying desperately to get a job, taking any opportunity they can. Their paths meet, and they both try together to make some money and live life happily. They go from job to job, hijinks ensue, but they always stay optimistic, which is sort of the underlying message in the film, but we'll get back to that later. Since this film was to be the last appearance of the tramp character, he was going to talk. For the first time in a film, the tramp was going to speak. This was a big deal. There was a lot of hype behind it. What's the tramp going to sound like? What's he going to say? What could he say? Chaplin knew that whatever he did wasn't going to match the hype. So towards the end of the movie, when it finally came time for the tramp to speak, this is what happens. Can you understand him? No, of course you can't understand him. He ain't saying shit. It's gibberish. Chaplin wanted to keep the tramp a universal character. So, for his first words on camera, he sings a song combining a bunch of different languages and phrases, but never actually saying anything. It even has a name. It's called the Nonsense Song. But if you watch his hands, he's actually telling a complete story by pantomiming, and you can actually follow it. It is genius, and it was the best thing he could have done with the situation. The film's ending is one of my favorite scenes in movie history. I guess if you want to watch the film for yourself, here's your spoiler warning. I'm about to talk about the very last scene in the film. Okay, so at the very end, our two protagonists are jobless. The tramp, being an eternal optimist, isn't fazed by this. But Goddard is upset. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this is mainly a silent film, so it still uses title cards when somebody speaks. Since this came out in 1936, this was the last major American film to do that. Not as a novelty like in The Artist, but as a legitimate way to express what the characters are saying. So, the last scene of this film has what can be called the very last title card in the entire silent era of cinema. It's said by the Tramp. What does he say? See for yourself. It couldn't be any more perfect. It's touching, it's straight and to the point, and it represents something greater. As the Tramp and Goddard walk into the sunset, hopeful and optimistic for the future, with a beautiful score being played in the background, we're not only thinking about the future of these two characters, we're thinking about the future of movies in general. This is why this is my favorite film of Chaplin's. There's Gold Rush and there's The Great Dictator, and don't get me wrong, I love me some Great Dictator. But Modern Times is a symbol of when films began talking. It's when cinema evolved into something new, something better. It's when people started taking film seriously, as art. As arguably the last silent film of a generation, it closed the book on an entire era of film, as a new, fresh form of the genre was born. Modern Times is a landmark of a picture. It celebrates filmmaking just as much as it mocks it. Buck up. Never say die. We'll get along. And earlier on in the film, there's a really funny scene where the Tramp does cocaine.